The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the emergency beacon's crimson light bathed the assembled delegates in an ominous glow. Ambassador Zixtal of the hegemony shifted nervously on his crystalline perch, his four eyes darting between the holographic display and the concerned faces of his fellow representatives. The beacon had not been activated in over 3 centuries, not since the Void Wars nearly consumed half the galaxy. "Explain this anomaly," demanded High Chancellor Vorth, his massive form casting shadows across the circular chamber. The Chronari leader's voice carried the weight of authority that had kept peace among 17 different species for generations. Fleet Admiral Kesha stepped forward, her scaled hide gleaming under the chamber lights. As the Reptilian Federation's chief military strategist, she had seen countless battles, but the data streaming across her neural interface made her blood run cold. The readings are unprecedented. A massive energy signature has appeared in the outer rim, Sector 7G. The displacement suggests a vessel of enormous proportions. "How enormous?" asked Dr. Millennia, the synthetic delegate whose mechanical mind processed information faster than any biological brain in the chamber. Kesha hesitated. "Our sensors indicate a ship approximately 40 kilometers in length, 12 kilometers wide, and 8 kilometers in height. The energy output rivals that of a small star." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the assembly. The largest known vessels in the galaxy belong to the Titan Collective, and even their dreadnoughts barely reached 10 kilometers. Ambassador Zixtal's translator crackled as he spoke. What civilization could construct such a monstrosity? Have the void spawn returned? "Negative," Kesha replied, her claws clicking against her data pad. "The energy signature is unfamiliar, but distinctly technological. This is not void spawn biotech. We're dealing with something else entirely." High Chancellor Vorth raised his massive hand, silencing the chamber. "Where did this vessel originate?" The Admiral's next words sent shockwaves through every delegate present. "The Sol System." The name hung in the air like a death sentence. Every species in the galaxy knew of Sol, the quarantine system in the galactic backwater where a primitive species called humans had been contained for the past 200 years. The quarantine had been established after first contact revealed them to be an aggressive, warlike race that posed a potential threat to galactic stability. "Impossible," whispered Counselor Tyss, her ethereal form shimmering with anxiety. "The Ethereal Collective maintains the psionic barriers around Sol. No vessel can breach our containment." "The barriers are intact," Kesha confirmed. "Somehow, this ship bypassed them without triggering any alarms. It simply appeared in open space, 3 light years beyond the quarantine zone." Dr. Millennia's optical sensors flickered as he processed this information. The technological implications are staggering. To bypass ethereal psionic barriers would require an understanding of dimensional physics that exceeds our own collective knowledge. Ambassador Zixtal's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "What are they doing? Have they made any hostile moves?" "That's the most disturbing part," Admiral Kesha said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "They're not doing anything. The vessel sits in dead space, completely motionless. No communications, no scans, no movement. It's as if they're waiting." "Waiting for what?" demanded High Chancellor Vorth. Before anyone could answer, the chamber's main display activated, showing a real-time image of the mysterious vessel. The assembled delegates gasped in unison. The ship was unlike anything in their combined databases. Its hull was a matte black that seemed to absorb light itself, broken only by lines of blue energy that pulsed along its surface like glowing veins. The design was angular and aggressive, with weapon ports that dotted its surface like the scales of some cosmic predator. "By the eternal void," breathed Counselor Tyss. "What manner of weapon could that thing carry?" Dr. Millennia's mechanical voice carried a note of awe. "Preliminary scans suggest energy weapons of unknown configuration. The power conduits alone exceed anything in our technology database. But more concerning are these structures." He highlighted sections of the ship with laser pointers. "These appear to be launch bays. If my calculations are correct, this vessel could carry thousands of smaller craft." The implications were terrifying. The largest fleet in the galaxy belonged to the hegemony, with just over 800 ships. This single vessel could potentially deploy a force larger than any existing fleet. We need to make contact, High Chancellor Vorth declared. Send a diplomatic envoy immediately. Sir, Admiral Kesha interjected. Perhaps we should consider a more cautious approach. Our intelligence on human psychology suggests they respond poorly to perceived weakness. A diplomatic mission might be interpreted as surrender. And what would you suggest, Admiral? The Chancellor's tone carried a warning edge. A show of force. Deploy the combined fleet to a safe distance. Let them know we're not defenseless. Ambassador Zixtal's translator sparked with static as he spoke rapidly. That would be a catastrophic mistake. Human mythology is filled with stories of their warriors facing impossible odds and emerging victorious. They call it heroic last stands or something equally barbaric. A military response could trigger exactly the kind of aggressive behavior we've been trying to prevent. Dr. Millennia processed the debate with mechanical precision. Both approaches carry significant risk. However, statistical analysis of human behavior patterns suggests Ambassador Zixtal may be correct. Humans have demonstrated a disturbing tendency to interpret military posturing as a challenge to be met with overwhelming force. The chamber erupted into arguments as delegates shouted over each other in dozens of languages. Some called for immediate military action, others for diplomatic outreach, and a few suggested the unthinkable, complete retreat from the sector. High Chancellor Vortha's voice boomed over the chaos. Silence. The massive Kronari leader stood to his full height, his presence commanding immediate attention. We will proceed with caution. Admiral Kesha, deploy a single scout ship to establish communication. Nothing more. If the humans respond aggressively, the scout will retreat immediately. And if they respond diplomatically, asked Counselor THYSS. Then, we pray they're nothing like the monsters our intelligence reports suggest they are. 3 hours later, the scout ship Whisper's Edge approached the mysterious human vessel. Captain Veltar of the Hegemony had volunteered for the mission, knowing it might be suicide. His ship was small and fast, designed for reconnaissance rather than combat. But, against something the size of the human dreadnought, it would be like a minnow approaching a leviathan. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Veltar of the Galactic Council scout ship Whisper's Edge. Please respond. His transmission was broadcast on all known frequencies in 17 different languages, including the primitive human tongues of English, Mandarin, and Spanish. For long minutes, there was no response. Then, without warning, the massive ship's hull lit up like a star. Weapon ports that had been dark suddenly blazed with energy, and launch bays opened like the maws of hungry beasts. Captain Veltar's blood turned to ice as his sensors detected thousands of smaller craft beginning to emerge from the battleship's belly. Council Command, this is Whisper's Edge, he screamed into his communicator. The human vessel is deploying fighters. Repeat, they are launching what appears to be an attack formation. But, even as the words left his mouth, something impossible happened. The human fighters, sleek craft that moved with inhuman precision, formed up around his tiny scout ship. They didn't attack. They didn't threaten. They simply surrounded him in a perfect sphere, maintaining exact distance and formation. Then, the communication came. The voice was human, speaking accented but clear galactic standard. Captain Veltar of the scout ship Whisper's Edge, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Earth Alliance Battleship Retribution. You will follow our escort to Docking Bay 7. Any deviation from the prescribed flight path will be considered a hostile act. Veltar's hands trembled as he replied, Admiral Chun, I am here on a diplomatic mission from the Galactic Council. I request permission to return to my superiors with confirmation of your peaceful intentions. The human's laugh was cold and devoid of humor. Captain, you seem to be under the impression that this is a negotiation. It is not. You have 30 seconds to comply, or we will demonstrate why your galaxy should fear the return of humanity. As if to emphasize the point, the massive battleship's main guns swiveled toward his position. Each barrel was large enough to fly his entire ship through, and the energy readings his sensors detected made his vessel's shields seem like tissue paper. Complying immediately, Admiral Chun, Veltar whispered, his voice barely audible. As his ship was guided into the bowels of the human dreadnought, Captain Veltar realized that everything the galaxy thought it knew about the contained human species was wrong. These were not primitive barbarians playing with stolen technology. This was a civilization that had spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment, and they had used that time well. The docking bay that received his ship was larger than most space stations, and, as he looked around, Veltar's blood ran cold. The bay was filled with machines of war, fighters, bombers, assault craft, and things he couldn't even identify. Everything was sleek, deadly, and built with a precision that exceeded anything in the galactic database. As he was escorted from his ship by human soldiers in power armor that hummed with barely contained energy, Captain Veltar sent one final message to the Council. They're not the same species we quarantined. Something has changed. The humans have evolved, and I fear we may have awakened something that should have remained sleeping. The Galactic Council would receive his message 3 hours later. By then, Admiral Sarah Chun would already be sending her own transmission to every corner of the galaxy. It was time for humanity to reclaim its place among the stars, and this time, they would not be contained. The message was simple, broadcast in every known language across every communication frequency. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Earth Alliance. For 200 years, you have kept humanity imprisoned in our home system, treating us like animals in a zoo. That ends today. We offer the galaxy one opportunity for peaceful coexistence. Send your representatives to discuss new terms or face the consequences of your arrogance. You have 72 hours to respond. Choose wisely. As the transmission ended, Admiral Chun looked out at the stars that had been denied to her species for so long. Soon, they would learn what humanity had become during their long isolation. And she suspected the galaxy was not prepared for that revelation. The Galactic Council's emergency session had been in continuous debate for 60 hours. Representatives from across the galaxy argued, schemed, and threatened each other while the human deadline approached like an inevitable storm. High Chancellor Vorth had not left his position in the center of the chamber, his massive frame showing signs of exhaustion that his species rarely displayed. The humans' demands are impossible, declared Ambassador Karath of the warrior clans. His scarred face bore the marks of 100 battles, and his voice carried the authority of someone who had never known defeat. They want unrestricted access to all galactic trade routes, recognition as a sovereign power, and reparations for their containment. They might as well ask us to surrender the galaxy. Dr. Millennia's optical sensors whirred as he processed the latest intelligence reports. The situation is more complex than simple territorial demands. Our deep space monitors have detected energy signatures suggesting additional human vessels are en route. The retribution may not be alone. Counselor THYSS shimmered with distress, her ethereal form fluctuating between dimensions. My people's seers speak of visions filled with fire and darkness. The psionic emanations from the human vessel are unlike anything we have encountered. Their minds are structured differently, harder, more focused, as if they have been forged by conflict. They were forged by us, Admiral Kesha said quietly. Her words silenced the chamber. The Reptilian Federation's military leader had been reviewing classified files from the original First Contact, and what she had discovered made her question everything. I have been analyzing the historical records from the quarantine's implementation. We made a critical error in our assessment of human psychology. High Chancellor Vorth leaned forward. Explain. When we first encountered humans, they were indeed primitive by our standards. Their technology was crude, their society fractured, their approach to conflict barbaric. We assumed that by containing them, we would prevent them from becoming a threat while allowing them to mature peacefully. Kesha paused, her claws clicking nervously. We failed to understand that conflict is not just how humans solve problems. It is how they evolve. Ambassador Zixtal's eyes blinked rapidly. What do you mean? Every advancement in human technology has been driven by warfare or the threat of warfare. Their greatest innovations come from their darkest hours. By isolating them, we did not prevent conflict. We simply ensured that when they turned their attention to escape, they would focus all their considerable ingenuity on that single goal. The implications hung heavy in the chamber air. Dr. Millennia was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. We created our own enemy. Worse, Kesha continued. We gave them a common cause. Before the quarantine, humans were divided into hundreds of competing nations, constantly at war with each other. The containment united them against a common enemy. Us. A new voice interrupted the debate. Admiral Chun is requesting immediate communication with the council leadership. The Chamber's AI announced. She states that she has something to show us. High Chancellor Vorth exchanged glances with his senior staff. Open the channel. Admiral Sarah Chin's image materialized in the center of the chamber. She was younger than most of the delegates had expected, perhaps 40 standard years old, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold the cold of deep space. She wore a pristine uniform that bore no insignia the council recognized, but her bearing left no doubt about her authority. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice carrying across the chamber with crisp precision. I am Admiral Sarah Chun, commanding officer of the Earth Alliance First Fleet. I appear before you to clarify humanity's position and to correct certain misconceptions you may have about our capabilities. Admiral Chun, High Chancellor Vorth replied. The Council is prepared to discuss reasonable terms for coexistence. However, your current demands are non-negotiable, Chen interrupted. But I suspect you believe you still have leverage in this situation. Allow me to correct that assumption. The holographic display shifted, showing a star map of the local galactic arm. Red dots began appearing across the map, dozens of them, each representing a massive energy signature. What you are seeing, Chen explained calmly, are the positions of the Earth Alliance 2nd through 15th fleets. Each fleet consists of vessels similar to the Retribution, though many are considerably larger. They are currently positioned at strategic points throughout your territory. Ambassador Karatha's scarred face paled. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected such a massive deployment. Chen's smile was arctic. Your sensors detect what we allow them to detect. 2 centuries of isolation gave us ample time to study your technology. Every sensor array, every surveillance network, every intelligence-gathering system you possess has been mapped, analyzed, and circumvented. We know the position of every council fleet, every military installation, every important civilian target in your territories. Counselor THYSS's ethereal form wavered. The psionic barriers, how did you bypass them? The same way we bypassed everything else. We studied you. We learned. We adapted. Chen's expression hardened. Did you really think you could keep an entire species prisoner for 2 centuries without consequences? Dr. Millennia processed the tactical implications at electronic speed. If your claims are accurate, you have achieved technological superiority across multiple domains. But surely you understand that the galaxy contains resources and knowledge that Earth cannot match. Mutual cooperation would benefit. Cooperation. Chen's laugh was bitter. The Galactic Council had 2 centuries to offer cooperation. Instead, you chose to treat humanity like dangerous animals. You denied us the stars that are our birthright, condemned our children to live in a cage, and assumed we would remain grateful for your protection. She gestured, and the display changed to show images of human colonies within the Sol system. Massive orbital habitats, asteroid mining operations, and industrial complexes that dwarfed anything in the Council databases. While you debated our fate, we built. While you planned our containment, we prepared. Every human in the Sol system has dedicated their life to this moment. Our entire civilization has been focused on a single goal, proving that humanity deserves its place among the stars. Admiral Kesha studied the images with a military expert's eye. The scale of construction is remarkable, but preparation is not the same as combat effectiveness. You have built impressive ships, but you have no experience in galactic warfare. Chen's expression shifted, becoming predatory. Admiral, I believe you are suffering from a common misconception. You assume that because humanity has been contained, we have had no experience with warfare. This is incorrect. The display shifted again, showing recordings from what appeared to be massive space battles. Ships fought with a viciousness and tactical sophistication that made even the veteran Council military officers uncomfortable. For the past century, humanity has engaged in continuous military exercises and war games of increasing complexity. We have fought mock battles involving millions of personnel, tested strategies against every possible enemy configuration, and refined our tactical doctrines through constant practice. Our officers have more combat simulation experience than most species have actual battle time. Ambassador Zixtal's translator crackled with static as he spoke rapidly. Simulations are not reality. You cannot learn true warfare without facing real enemies. Who says we have not faced real enemies? Chen's words sent a chill through the chamber. The quarantine was not perfect, Admiral. Things occasionally broke through your barriers. Void spawn scouts, rogue AI constructs, interdimensional parasites. Each time, the Council's response was to strengthen the barriers and pretend the problem didn't exist. Humanity's response was to hunt down and destroy every threat that entered our system. The implications were staggering. The Council had been aware of occasional barrier breaches, but they had assumed the threats were simply absorbed by the barrier system itself. The idea that humans had been fighting and destroying entities that the Council itself found dangerous was almost incomprehensible. Moreover, Chun continued, you have failed to consider the psychological implications of your containment. Every human alive today was born in captivity. We have been raised with the knowledge that an alien force controls our destiny, that our species exists at the sufferance of others. This has created a level of unity and purpose that your fractured council cannot comprehend. High Chancellor Vortha's massive form shifted uneasily. What do you want from us, Admiral? If our past actions were mistaken, we are willing to discuss compensation. I want what should have been offered from the beginning. Recognition of humanity's right to exist as equals. Full membership in the Galactic Council, unrestricted access to all trade routes and neutral territories, and reparations for 2 centuries of unlawful imprisonment. And if we refuse? Asked Admiral Kesha. Chen's smile returned, colder than before. Then, you will learn why your galaxy should fear the name of Earth. Every military strategist in the Council databases assumes that conquest requires overwhelming numerical superiority. Humanity has learned to think differently. We do not need to conquer your worlds, Admiral. We only need to destroy your ability to threaten us. She gestured, and the display showed detailed schematics of Council infrastructure. Trade hubs, communication networks, supply lines, all marked with targeting indicators. Your civilization depends on interconnected systems spanning thousands of light years. Destroy the critical nodes, and the entire network collapses. A handful of precisely targeted strikes could reduce your galactic empire to isolated systems fighting for survival. Dr. Millennia's optical sensors focused intently on the schematics. The level of intelligence gathering required to produce these analyses would take decades of deep infiltration. How is this possible? Did you think we spent 2 centuries sitting quietly in our cage? Humanity has been studying you for generations. Every diplomatic contact, every supply ship, every maintenance vessel that entered our system was an opportunity to gather intelligence. We have learned your languages, your customs, your technologies, and, most importantly, your weaknesses. The chamber fell silent as the full scope of humanity's preparation became clear. They had not simply built weapons. They had conducted a 2-century intelligence operation that mapped every aspect of galactic civilization. Ambassador Karatha's warrior instincts finally overcame his diplomatic training. You speak of destroying civilian infrastructure, threatening innocent populations. This is not the behavior of a species seeking peaceful coexistence. Chen's expression hardened. Peace is what we offer. But peace between equals, not the conditional tolerance you have shown us. The choice is yours. Recognize humanity's sovereignty or face the consequences of 2 centuries of injustice. She paused, letting her words sink in. You have 12 hours to respond. Use them wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. After a long moment, High Chancellor Vorth spoke. Admiral Kesha, what are the chances that she is bluffing? The reptilian military leader studied her data carefully. Based on what we have observed, I would estimate the probability at less than 5%. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our intelligence projections in every category. If they say they can cripple our infrastructure, we should assume they can. Then, we have no choice, said Counselor THYSS. We must accede to their demands. Absolutely not, declared Ambassador Karath. If we surrender to human threats, every minor species in the galaxy will see it as a sign of weakness. The Council's authority will collapse. Dr. Millennia processed the possibilities with mechanical precision. Both positions have merit. However, we are faced with a scenario that our governing protocols did not anticipate. First contact with a species that may be technologically superior to our own combined capabilities. High Chancellor Vorth stood slowly, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber. There is another option. We negotiate, not from a position of strength, but from mutual respect. If the humans truly want equality, then perhaps it is time the Council learned to treat them as equals. As the debate resumed, none of the delegates noticed the small device hidden in the chamber's ventilation system, quietly recording every word and transmitting it to the human fleet waiting in the darkness of space. Admiral Chun would know their decision long before they made it official. Humanity's return to the galaxy had begun, and the old order would never be the same. The Council's response came with 3 hours remaining on Admiral Chen's deadline. High Chancellor Vorth himself delivered the message, his massive form filling the communication screen as he addressed the human fleet commander. Admiral Chen, after extensive deliberation, the Galactic Council is prepared to begin negotiations regarding humanity's status within galactic civilization. We propose a formal diplomatic summit to establish terms for peaceful coexistence. Chen's expression remained neutral as she replied, Chancellor Vorth, I appreciate your willingness to engage in dialogue. However, I must clarify something important. This is not a negotiation. These are the terms under which humanity will rejoin galactic society. You may accept them in full or face the consequences of refusal. The Chancellor's alien features showed strain. Admiral, surely you understand that such demands cannot be accepted without discussion. The Council represents 17 different species with diverse interests. Unilateral terms are impossible to implement. Then, I suggest you convince your member species that compliance is in their best interest. Chen's voice carried a cold finality. You have 40 minutes to provide a formal acceptance. I will not extend this deadline again. As the transmission ended, chaos erupted in the Council chamber. Ambassador Korath slammed his fist against his console, cracking the crystalline surface. This is intolerable. No single species has ever dictated terms to the entire galaxy. No single species has ever demonstrated the capability to destroy galactic civilization, Dr. Millennia countered. Statistical analysis indicates that resistance would result in catastrophic losses across all sectors. Counselor THYSS flickered between dimensions as her anxiety peaked. My seers grow more desperate in their warnings. They speak of visions where entire star systems burn, where the very fabric of space-time tears under the weight of human weapons. We must find another path. Admiral Kesha had been studying tactical projections throughout the debate. I have completed a military assessment of human capabilities based on observed data. The results are sobering. She activated a holographic display showing projected battle scenarios. In every simulation, Council forces suffered devastating losses within the first 72 hours of conflict. Our technological advantage has been completely negated. Ambassador Zixtal's 4 eyes focused intently on the projections. How is this possible? The humans were primitive when we first encountered them. They were primitive in our terms, Kesha explained. But they possess something we did not account for, an extraordinary capacity for adaptation under pressure. Every species in the Council developed their technology gradually over millennia. Humans compressed that development into 2 centuries of focused effort. High Chancellor Vorth studied the data with growing unease. What specific advantages do they possess? Their primary advantage is integration, Dr. Millennia replied. Council military doctrine relies on specialized ships performing specific functions. Human vessels appear to be multi-role platforms capable of adapting to any combat scenario. A single human ship can function as a battleship, carrier, assault transport, or siege platform depending on battlefield requirements. The implications were staggering. Council military strategy had always relied on combined fleet actions where different ship classes supported each other. If human vessels could perform multiple roles simultaneously, traditional tactical formations would be obsolete. Furthermore, Admiral Kesha continued, their weapons technology demonstrates principles we do not understand. energy weapons that seem to ignore conventional shielding, projectile systems with impossible accuracy across interstellar distances, and defensive measures that appear to violate known physics. Counselor THYSS shimmered with distress. The ethereal collective's greatest minds have been analyzing the psionic emanations from their vessels. The humans have found ways to weaponize dimensional manipulation itself. They can fold space-time to deliver attacks from impossible angles. Ambassador Karatha's scarred face showed disbelief. You're suggesting they have surpassed the combined scientific knowledge of 17 spacefaring civilizations? Not surpassed, Dr. Millennia corrected. Circumvented. They have approached technological development from fundamentally different principles. Where we refined existing concepts, they invented entirely new approaches. As the debate continued, an aide approached High Chancellor Vorth with urgent news. Sir, our deep space monitors are detecting massive energy spikes throughout human-controlled space. It appears they are powering additional weapon systems. The Chancellor's blood ran cold. Are they preparing to attack? Unknown, sir. But the energy levels suggest weapons capable of cracking planetary cores. The chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. The humans were not merely threatening military targets. They possessed the capability to commit genocide on a galactic scale. Admiral Chen's voice cut through their stunned silence as she initiated another communication. Chancellor Vorth, you now have 15 minutes to respond. I should mention that our deep space surveillance has detected movement among several Council fleets. Any attempt to deploy military forces will be considered an act of war. Admiral, the Chancellor replied desperately. The Council requires more time to coordinate a response among our member species. Surely you can understand the complexity of galactic governance. Chen's expression hardened. Chancellor, I have spent my entire life preparing for this moment. Every human alive today has sacrificed their dreams of exploration and discovery to ensure our species' survival. We will not be denied our freedom by bureaucratic delays. She gestured, and the display showed real-time images of human fleets moving into attack positions throughout the galaxy. Our forces are in position to simultaneously strike every major Council installation. Military bases, trade hubs, communication networks, industrial centers. Within 6 hours, we can reduce your civilization to scattered survivors fighting over scraps. The sheer scope of the human deployment was breathtaking. Somehow, they had positioned fleets at strategic points across thousands of light years without detection. The intelligence operation required to accomplish this was beyond anything the Council had thought possible. However, Chen continued, I am not interested in ruling over ruins. Humanity seeks its rightful place among the stars, not dominion over graveyards. Accept our terms, and we can build a new galactic order based on mutual respect rather than enforced hierarchy. Ambassador Zixtal's translator crackled as he spoke rapidly. What guarantees do we have that humanity will honor peaceful coexistence once our defenses are eliminated? Chen's smile was grim. The same guarantee you gave us for 2 centuries, none. The difference is that we are offering you a choice. Dr. Millennia processed the ethical implications at electronic speed. From a purely logical standpoint, acquiescence offers the highest probability of species survival. However, the precedent of yielding to ultimatums could destabilize the entire galactic order. The galactic order is already destabilized, Counselor THYSS observed. The humans have proven that the Council's authority rests on outdated assumptions about technological and military superiority. We must adapt or perish. High Chancellor Vorth stood slowly, his massive frame showing the weight of impossible decisions. Admiral Chen, if the Council agrees to your terms, what assurance do we have that humanity will not simply continue making demands? You have my word, Chen replied. But, more importantly, you have our nature. Humans do not seek to rule others, Chancellor. We seek to be free to pursue our own destiny. Grant us equality, and we will have no reason to threaten you further. And, if member species refuse to accept human sovereignty? Chen's expression became arctic. Then, those species will learn why the rest of the galaxy chose compliance. With 5 minutes remaining on the deadline, the Council faced an impossible choice. Surrender their authority to a species they had once considered primitive, or face annihilation at the hands of the prisoners they had thought safely contained. Ambassador Korath made one final attempt at resistance. The warrior clans do not bow to threats. If humanity wants war, we will give them a fight worthy of legend. Admiral, Chen addressed him directly. I have studied your species' military history extensively. The warrior clans are formidable fighters with a proud tradition of honorable combat. But honor is a luxury that my people lost when you put us in a cage. We fight to win, regardless of cost or consequence. She paused, letting her words sink in. Your warriors dream of glorious death in battle. Our soldiers dream of going home to their families. Guess which motivation produces better results in prolonged conflict? The harsh truth of her statement silenced even the proud warrior. The humans had been forged by desperation and united by oppression. They would fight with a ruthlessness that honor-bound species could not match. High Chancellor Vorth looked around the chamber one final time, seeing the defeat in every delegate's expression. The decision was no longer about pride or politics. It was about survival. Admiral Chun, he said heavily, the Galactic Council accepts your terms in full. Humanity will be granted full membership with all associated rights and privileges. Reparations will be negotiated through standard diplomatic channels. Trade routes and neutral territories will be opened to human vessels immediately. Chen nodded calmly. A wise decision, Chancellor. Human diplomatic teams will arrive at Council headquarters within the week to formalize these arrangements. I trust you will ensure they receive appropriate welcomes. Of course, Vorth replied. But, Admiral, I must ask, what happens now? How do we explain to our populations that the galaxy's balance of power has shifted overnight? Chen's expression softened slightly. You tell them the truth, Chancellor. You tell them that humanity has returned to the galaxy, and that the age of enforced isolation is over. Some will resist, others will adapt. But all will learn that the universe is larger and more dangerous than they imagined. As the transmission ended, the council chamber sat in stunned silence. In the span of 72 hours, everything they had believed about galactic civilization had been proven false. Humanity, the species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians, had emerged from their cage transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization that had turned 2 centuries of imprisonment into the foundation of unprecedented power. Admiral Kesha was the first to speak. What have we unleashed? Dr. Millennia's optical sensors dimmed as he processed the question. Perhaps the better question is, what did we try to contain? The humans have demonstrated that forced evolution under pressure can produce results that exceed natural development. We created our own nemesis through misguided paternalism. Counselor THYSS flickered weakly between dimensions. My seers speak of a new vision now. The fire and darkness have passed, replaced by images of vast ships carrying humans to distant stars. They see a future where humanity spreads across the galaxy like a tide, not conquering, but transforming everything they touch. Ambassador Zixdal's eyes blinked thoughtfully. Perhaps that is not entirely negative. The galaxy has grown complacent under council rule. Competition might force innovation and progress. High Chancellor Vorth slumped in his chair, suddenly, looking older than his centuries. We must inform the member species that the galactic order has fundamentally changed. Some will panic, others will seek accommodation with humanity, and a few might choose resistance. Those who choose resistance should be reminded of today's events, Admiral Kesha said grimly. The humans offered terms once. I doubt they will be as generous to those who oppose them after gaining acceptance. As the delegates began the difficult process of explaining humanity's return to their respective governments, none of them noticed the small fleet of human ships that had been observing the proceedings from beyond sensor range. Admiral Chen's plan had succeeded beyond her most optimistic projections. Not only had humanity gained recognition, but they had done so while demonstrating overwhelming superiority. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of council dominance was over, and the age of human expansion was about to begin. But, as Admiral Chun looked out at the stars that were finally open to her people, she wondered if the galaxy was truly prepared for what humanity would become when freed from their cage. The answer, she suspected, would reshape the very nature of galactic civilization.